प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. Om. Dear friends, in the last episode we were just concluding the chapter number 9. The chapter number 9, we were seeing that it is a slightly complicated chapter, and the title itself claims that it is Raja Vidya and Raja Guhyam. It is the secret of all secrets, and it's something like the king of all knowledge, all systems of knowledge. And what is that king? What is that princely knowledge? The princely knowledge is the contradictory statement which was made by Lord Krishna, Matstani Sarvabhutani and Nacha Matstani Bhutani. On this there is a lot of debate about the actual nature of this world. When he says Matstani Sarvabhutani, he is talking at the level of ordinary, say a person who is inquiring into the nature of things, saying that there is a unity in all the things. There is only one Brahman, there is only one consciousness which is all pervading, etc., etc. But then the very second statement, it says, Nacha Matstani Bhutani, nothing is there in me. It again throws out a question as to the very reality of the phenomenal world which we see. Is the world which we are seeing, is it real, or is it only an appearance in that supreme consciousness? So all that debate falls under a subject called ontology. In philosophy there is a subject called ontology, that is the study of the nature of reality of a thing. Is it real or unreal? So that is the serious study. Even in modern philosophy, in modern philosophy only it is called ontology. So that is the type of question which was raised by Lord Krishna in this chapter. So that is the reason why it is called the secret of all secrets and the princely knowledge. So that is what we saw, and we were actually concluding the 9th chapter. And in that 9th chapter he also talked about the lower level, what was called the Saguna level. At one level he touches the Nirguna level, that is the Brahman, pure Brahman without attributes. And at the lower level he talks about a Saguna Brahma, that is the creator who is responsible for creation, sustenance, destruction, etc., etc., at that level. So then we are now coming to the end of this 9th chapter. In that 9th chapter he was saying that a person who becomes a devotee, even if he is a very, very wicked person, if he comes to the path of devotion, his sensibilities will be purified, his emotions will be purified, his samskaras will be purified. So that is what he was saying. Apichet suduracharaha bhajate mam ananya bhag. So such a person will also get purified, and slowly he will come to me. Come to me means he will come to realize me. A person whose mind is purified, naturally he will be inclined towards jnana. He will be inclined towards inquiry about the nature of self. So that is what he was saying. And he said, Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. He is saying this particular loka is the place where you have to do your inquiry, because we have got a word called karma bhumi. Usually people who talk about Puranas, they say, oh, Bharata Desham is karma bhumi, etc., etc. In philosophy, whatever they say in Purana somebody may say Bharata Khanda is karma bhumi, it is such a sacred place, etc., etc. We say, we need not quarrel with them. But when it comes to Vedanta, Vedanta says karma bhumi does not refer to some land. It doesn't refer to a piece of land. It refers to the human level, the human existence, the human life. Because this human life is the stage. Bhumi doesn't mean earth. Bhumi means a particular stage. So this particular stage where a person has a chance to perform an action, he has got a chance to purify his mind, he has got a chance to purify his samskaras, and then he has got a chance to get into the path of knowledge. So that is the reason why it is called karma bhumi. All other births, for example, you call Deva bhumi, Deva, or Danava. Danava means Asura, Rakshasa, etc., or animals. All these things, they are called the bhoga bhumi. By virtue of some punya which you have done on earth means during the human life, because in the human life only a person has got some dharma, a person has got some course of action. He has got what is called pravrutti dharma and what is called nivrutti dharma. And by following this path of righteousness, he earns what is called punya, and then he gets a better birth in the next life. So, when that is a bhoga bhumi, suppose a person is divine, say a demigod or something like that, there is no karma. Similarly, for animals etc., there is no karma. So, karma is there only for the human beings. So, that is the reason why karma bhumi refers to the human life and not to a piece of land, not to Bharata Varsha or Bharata Khanda. We are not undermining the sanctity of Bharata Varsha or Bharata Khanda. We are only trying to logically think. That is, once upon a time, Bharata Varsha, Bharata Khanda extended beyond Sri Lanka, and then it extended beyond say Bangladesh, it went up to Rangoon etc., and on this side it went up right to Kandahar etc. on the northeast side, northwest side. So, but then now it has shrunk. Then what happened to that Bharata Khanda? Is it not Karma Bhumi? So, that is why Karma Bhumi refers to this particular life. Then finally he says, the last line of this say particular say chapter, Manmana bhava mad bhaktaha mad yaji mam namaskuru. That is the 34th shloka, Mame vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam mat parayanaha. So, here he is actually listing out all the different levels which he has so far talked about. That is, number 1 is the path of knowledge, man mana bhava. You fill me in your, you fill your mind with me. Fill your mind with me means Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. We have heard about these 3 terms. What is Shravanam, what is Mananam, Nididhyasanam, we have heard about these things. So, fill your mind with me. Then Mad Bhaktaha, he is talking about the level of devotion. Devotion is a stage where the devotee is assuming that he is something which is different from the worship, from the Lord or God whom he is worshipping. That is on the plane of duality. So, Mad Bhakta is a slightly lower level, but still it is a right path in the sense that even at that level his mind gets purified and he comes to the knowledge, he comes to the path of knowledge. Mad Yaji, Yaji means one who performs a yajna. That is, what all karma you do, you perform in my name. He is now referring to what is called karma yoga. So, he talked about the path of knowledge, he talks about bhakti, he is now talking about karma yoga. Mad Yaji, Mam Namaskuru, that is Namaskuru is Sharanagati. You just surrender to me, and surrender to me means it is not as though we surrender to Lord Krishna and then fall on the feet and then do some Anga Pradakshina and what not. It is not that. It does not mean that. Pradakshina and then Namaskara, all these, not that. It is only talking about the surrender to the God in the sense that whatever I am doing is something which is I am doing on behalf of the Lord, putting myself in God's place, in the Lord's shoes. So, that is the point. So, that is what that is how this particular chapter concludes. Then we are now coming to the 10th chapter. This is a rather interesting chapter. It is not tough like 9th chapter. There is nothing very say complicated to understand. In fact, this is rather interesting because this talks about, or rather refers to, so many stories from all our Puranas. This particular chapter is called Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti, we should not misunderstand that this Vibhuti is something which we get in Shiva temples. When you go to a Shiva temples, there is a Vibhuti and then you apply this Vibhuti on your forehead. Some people put a dot and some people do a lot of 3 lines and what not, and also all over the body we put lines. So, that is Vibhuti. Of course, here it is not that Vibhuti. Vibhuti is bhu. In Sanskrit, the root bhu means to be, to exist. Bhu, to be, to exist. Vibhuti means Visheshena Bhavanam. That is special, exclusive, brilliant manifestation of that reality. There is only one reality, that is that Supreme Brahman, what we call consciousness or infinitely say pervading consciousness, infinitely existing consciousness, and that consciousness is something which is appearing as many, which is appearing or manifesting as many. So, that is what is called Vibhuti, that is a very brilliant, exclusive, special manifestation of a thing. So, we may get it out. In Vedanta, all the while we are saying that this Jiva is not much different from Brahma. You are also a manifestation, you are also in the same thing. When you say that you are also a manifestation of that Brahman, then what about, why do you say that there is a special thing? Then the point is, there is an ordinary manifestation and there is a special manifestation. Parvate Paramanavcha they say, Parvata also is consisting of matter. A small atom also is consisting of matter. So, there is a lot of difference. So, like that, though this Jiva is not different from the Brahman, this manifestation, what we call special manifestation, suppose you are talking about the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies and all the forces in the nature. We are all talking about referring to all those forces in nature. When we are referring to all those things, they are certainly much larger manifestations than this small petty human being. So, that is the reason why it is called Vibhuti. So, here this particular chapter is called Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti Yoga means you have to understand the Vibhuti. Yoga, again, it is not a particular yoga. Yoga we should not mistake for another type of exclusive yoga. Yoga means you understanding that particular path which is told in this. In this, what is told? What is told here is that the same reality is manifesting in so many special forms. Why is it manifesting, or why are we discussing it? We are discussing it because for somebody who is not mature enough, to go straight to the study of the Shastra, and then who is not mature enough to do this Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. In order to do this Shravana, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, we have seen that in Vedanta there are certain prerequisites. That prerequisites are, there is what is called Nitya Vastu Viveka, that is a discrimination of what is right and what is eternal and what is non-eternal. And then there is what is called self-discipline, Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, that is what it is said. That is Shama, Dama, Titiksha, etc., etc. All these words we have. We are now familiar with all these words because I have told several times. So, that Sampatti, then deep desire for moksha. So, all these things should be there. So, that particular level all of us have not reached. So, for somebody, for an ordinary person who wants to pursue a good path, a right path, so what is called, there is what is called Upasana. Upasana can otherwise be called Bhakti also. That is, you are visualizing, you are getting hold of a particular manifestation. You call it an avatara, you call it this. Now, of course, there is some slight difference between an avatara and this Vibhuti. We may get a doubt. For example, Rama is an avatara, Krishna is an avatara, Narasimha is an avatara. Then we are now talking about some other things like sun, moon, stars, etc., etc., etc. What is the difference between this and that? So, that avatara is something which is for a special purpose. For example, Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Cha Dushkrutam, a very familiar sloka. Whenever unrighteousness is in ascendancy, whenever adharma is rising its ugly head, then there is a nature's law. There is a law of nature that there is some divine manifestation exclusively for the purpose of putting down that adharma. So, that is what is called avatara. Avataranam actually means descending. Avatarati. Avatarati means descends. So, that is a particular descent of some higher being onto earth, or somebody who suddenly emerges under the force of those circumstances. So, he is treated as an avatara because he is the man who delivers all the people, who creates a situation where that adharma is say put down. So, that is the reason why we call these exclusive manifestations like Rama, Krishna, otherwise say like Narasimha, etc., etc. We call them avatars. But these are special manifestations in this, exclusive manifestations in the sense, but they are always there. Sun is always there, the moon is always there, and what he refers as Rudra, Aditya, etc., etc., they are always there. So, that we are going to see in this say particular chapter. And as I said, this particular chapter, this is basically for Upasanartham, in the sense that for somebody who is not mature enough, he needs some sort of support, he needs some sort of alambana or crutch in order to lean on and then go on to the next level. So, that is what we see. This upasana also need not confuse us, in the sense that, oh, there are so many upasanas, which upasana is the right upasana and which one should I do? Because we always get confused. Because we go to one particular temple, somebody says, no, this temple is not very powerful, there is another temple which is more powerful. Then you go there. Somebody says, no, you go to another dargah. Then we are also confused and then we go to that dargah also. Then somebody says you worship something else, you go and worship that also. So people are usually confused. So, but Vedanta says you need not be confused, because there is a book called Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is an analysis of the nature of the supreme reality. In fact, sage Vyasa only has written various aphorisms, and in that Brahma Sutras, the chapter 3, the book 3 rather, that book 3 is totally on upasanas. And then in that upasana, there is a particular sutra or an aphorism which says all upasanas lead to only one final goal. So there you need not bother about which upasana, should you worship Rama, or should you worship Vishnu, or should you worship some Narasimha Swami, or should you worship Anjaneya, etc., etc., because all these are in the plane of duality. And then you are on the right path. Your mind naturally comes back to the path of knowledge. Once your mind becomes pure, we saw that at the end of the 9th chapter, because a person who is on the path of bhakti, his mind becomes pure. So there is a sutra saying Vikalpaha Avishishta Phalatvat, that is the sutra in that Brahma Sutra. That is, all these alternatives are told, but then Avishishta Phalam, but there is no exclusive phalam for any of these things, all have the same phalam. So that is what it says. So we need not be confused about which one is better, which is say bad, which is worse, etc., etc. There is no comparison. You can do upasana on anything. So that is what it says. So if we see the structure of this particular chapter, there are about 42 verses here, and then initially Krishna himself is volunteering to say that because I love you, I like you most, because you are a very, very sincere student, I am going to tell you many more. And then the first 11 verses, they are words of Krishna, telling about different manifestations. And then again Arjuna becomes curious. He is rather inquisitive to know about all those manifestations. So Arjuna's questions are from shlokas 12 to 18, and from 19 till the end, that is 42nd shloka, Krishna goes on to describe various manifestations. In fact, if we list out, it comes to a total of 75 such manifestations, he says. But then that is not the end of all. That is not the end of all. He says, as a sample, I am going to tell you some of the important manifestations, and then these manifestations, and then the concluding words. So that is how this particular chapter is structured. So then we see here, let us read the first shloka. He says, Bhuya eva mahabaho shrunu me paramam vachaha yatteham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. You are my dear student, and I wish you well. Tava hitakamyaya. Hitakamyaya means I wish you well. So that is what I want. That is the reason why I want you to understand it properly. When you wish, good for the other person, even if the other person does not ask, we volunteer to tell. There is a saying in Sanskrit, Aprushtopi hitam bruyad yasya nechet parajayam. That is, suppose your son or daughter, he or she may not ask you about what is the right or what is wrong, but even if he or she does not ask, we are going to say. We volunteer, and then we say, yeah, this is the right thing to do, this is not the right thing. So, aprushtopi, even when it is not asked, hitam bruyat, we have to tell what is good for them. So, that is the reason why he says, though you are a very sincere student, I am wishing your welfare. So, that is why I am telling you something more. And then he says, he talks about his manifestations. I will skip a few shlokas here, because it will be very, very tedious if I read all the shlokas. I will read the shloka 3. Yo mam ajam anadincha vetti lokamaheshwaram asammudhassa martyeshu sarva papaih pramuchyate. So wherever there are some words which give some special exclusive meaning, I will tell. Yo mam ajam anadimcha. A person who knows me as the Aja. Aja means something which is birthless. Birthless means something which is anadi, something which has no point of origin. So consciousness is something which is no point, which has no origin. We have been talking about the nature of consciousness several times. So this is something which is something which is eternal, which is always there, which is all pervading. So, ajam anadincha vetti lokamaheshwaram, all the lokas, all the so-called manifestations which we see as bhuloka, samadharloka, etc., they are all manifestations in the same consciousness. And then asammudhasya martyeshu sarva papaih pramuchyate. Sarva papaih pramuchyate means he will be rid of all papa. So, in Vedanta, wherever there is a word papam, it also includes punya, because punyam also is as bad as papam for a Vedanti. Because suppose a person does sinful deeds, okay, it is giving another birth. You do some all virtuous deeds, that will also lead to birth. So, this birth, the cycle of birth and death is not escaped. Even if you do punya karyam, say all charitable deeds, etc., it does not mean that you should not do punya karya. You have to do, you have to do punya karya, but you have to do in such a way that you will not get the fruit of that, in the sense that we have to do it as a karma yoga. When you do it as karma yoga, then yoga karmasu kaushalam, if we recall those lines from this karma yoga, that is doing certain things in such a way that you are not attracting the fruit of that karma. So, that is what is karma yoga. So, we have to do things in such a way that we do not get that. So, when he says sarva papaih pramuchyate, he is saying that you will be getting rid of all the papam and also of punya. Then he also says that what all you see, buddhir jnanam asammohaha, all these things, what all you see it as intellect, knowledge, and then truth, and all these things, calmness of heart, and then all virtues, vices, good, bad, ugly, they are all manifestations in me. So, that is what he says. And then he also says all the saintly people, Maharshayaha, Sapta Purve, Chatvaro, Manavastatha, all these so-called rishis, saints, etc., and all these Manuhu, Manavaha means all these creators, etc., all these people, they are again manifestations in me. Then again he says, Yetam vibhutim yogancha mama yo vetti tattvataha sovikampena yogena yujyatena atra samshayaha. So, a person who has to know this particular vibhuti and also yogam. Vibhuti and yoga, not much difference. Vibhuti means, that is, as I said, exclusive special manifestations, and also yoga means the ability to manifest. So, that of course he is going to say or elaborately describe in the next few shlokas, which we will see in the next episode. Harihi Om Tat Sat.